Thank you so much for joining me today for choosing your HR system. This is going to be a robust hour, and you might want to have a pen and paper nearby in case you want to take notes. But do know that I am Nicole Martin. I am the Chief Empowerment Officer and founder of HR Boost, a boutique HR shared services firm right here in Chicagoland. And this is a topic that I've been just stewing and brewing on for the last 9 years in business. And I see that Laura's live with us. Hi, Laura. I love that you're a client. I love that you're out there building bridges across the country with Gale Construction. Thank you for joining me. And know that I am excited about this topic because for 9 years, ever since jumping ship from corporate and starting my own business, I have learned that the biggest and best HR systems are restricted to the big businesses across our country. Literally, the companies out there that are providing those systems, like Workday, for example, these are really cool systems, but they're only selling to businesses with 3,000 employees or more. Some of them even 4,000 employees or more. And they're not selling their systems or even quoting or making available the coolest systems out there to the middle market, which is where HR Boost devotes all of its time. And so knowing that fact, know that I'm going to do my very best to help you understand what an HR system is, what it can do, why I'm passionate about bringing HCM, human capital management systems, to the small and middle market businesses that are out there. And I've been trying really hard to do that for 9 years now in my business, but I have finally found a solution and I cannot wait to share it with you. I'm calling it the STAR solution, and I promise to reveal it to you before the end. But I'm going to take you through the madness that is HR systems and help you understand a couple of things that I've learned. I'll sum it up right away for you. There's two things. One, a system cannot replace an HR professional in your business, right? We want to keep the human and human resources, but the systems can optimize the humans in the business based on getting, tactical things out of the way, driving accuracy and consistency. And so understand that even if you purchase an HR system, whether you know it as an app or a download or something you take into your business right now, it does not replace the human in the business. Whether you be the Chief Empowerment Officer like me, the HR professional, the broker that's connecting to your clients, whoever you may be, know that the system does not replace you. I think the second thing I wanted you to know was that I have yet to find a system that is the end all be all for me in HR. And I've been looking for it for quite some time. I've even served as a domain expert for people who were developing systems. And some of them are really cool. Some of them are great. It has a lot to do, though, with the life cycle of where you are in your business, your budget, your pace of utilization, and also your sophistication. I've worked with some small businesses that buy, they could have 10 employees and they buy and sell businesses for fun. And they're already into analytics land because they speak that language. But then I can also work with another business, maybe upwards of 500 employees even, and they still are working with a simple database type of system. And we'll talk about what that means in a minute. But they're not into global analytics yet. And they're stuck in just gathering data and not doing a lot with it. So it just depends on where you're at on that journey as well. But there is a system out there for you, no matter where you are on that journey. But my goal is to help you get a system that is as robust as what the big businesses have. Because at HR Boost, we believe in strategic HR, day one, employee one. And I believe that all of you will be fighting for talent. And I do mean fighting for talent, because the talent war is done. Talent has won. They will choose if they're going to work for you or somebody else. And small businesses across this country are fighting for talent against big businesses who have greater resources, greater budgets, etc. And I want to make that playing field fair. So let's dive in, shall we? I have 5 areas that we're going to dive into. And if you're too short on time right now, just come back for the replay. But if you're with me, you're going to go in order through these 5 areas with me in the next 55 minutes, let's say. Step 1, what do I need to know before I even consider purchasing an HR system? And this is something I've become pretty passionate about because I've seen many businesses. We've had the experience in my business now serving over, nearly 600 businesses in Chicagoland over the last 9 years. Different sizes, industry agnostic. And I've walked into, the room a little too late in some business environments where I've seen businesses spend $300,000 on an ERP, for example, thinking that it's going to do everything it can for their business, and then people not embracing that change and it never gets utilized. I've also seen systems purchases, you know, recently even within the HR suite, where somebody was sold something that they thought that system could do something for them, only to have put down the implementation fees, allocate their resources, and discover that that system can't do what they thought it could at all. And this is actually how I even started my business. Back in 2010, I started getting invited into rooms that people were looking at proposals of different, you know, payroll bureau companies or companies that were getting into the PEO market, for example, through their software sales and their software as a service services. And I'd look at what they were looking for. You'd hear the pain of what the client's dealing with and go, no, but that doesn't happen in the system. A lot of HR things have to be built outside of the system. So understand that the system is there to help you make something consistent once it's been formulated. It makes it consistent, and then you can decentralize it across the organization, and it can optimize that. But really, what are you looking for in the first place? And really connecting that need or that pain to the system that is best for you. And understand that I have worked in companies with frugal CEOs and built the best place to work in partnership with CFOs with no HRIS, and literally building something off of Excel and Word, because at the end of the day, it's all about how you make people feel. So please know that. We're going to start with, what do you really need? And then, what is an HR system anyway? There are so many acronyms out there. You could Google search right now and you could put in an HRIS and you would learn that's a human resource information system. You could Google an HCM and you would find out that's a human capital management system. And then you could also go further to say, what's an HRMS, right? It's like alphabet soup. Human resources management systems. There's these three buckets, and we're going to dive into what differentiates the three so that you can better understand what that language is, you know, a little bit of alphabet soup for you. But bottom line, every system falls into one of those three buckets. And if it doesn't, then you're dealing with a system that is not robust or holistic in nature within HR framework. It's kind of maybe an app or a solution that just targets one area of HR, be it applicant tracking, for example, systems, or performance management systems, or reward systems. They're just hitting one vertical of HR rather than a robust HR system that comprises all areas of HR tactics to impact HR strategies in your business. The third thing we're going to talk about is logic, because understanding logical paths is really important. I feel that you want to know why you're collecting data, and that you're not just collecting data, but you know why you're collecting it, and then hopefully get you to the place where you understand that you can put data into action. And how do you do that, or what systems do you need in order to do that, if that is something you're seeking to do? The fourth area that we're going to dive into is data-driven outcomes. Some people don't understand HR metrics, and I don't expect you to unless you came up within HR like I did. And a lot of those metrics are changing right now with the use of technology, and it really can optimize a business if they're working with the right data outcomes or expectations from their HR departments in order to drive business strategy and realize results on your investment, not only in the people, but the systems that you employ within your business. So we're going to talk about that. I think that systems need to be agile. The world is changing. Obviously, there are businesses out there working and sourcing talent from all different areas, not just employee W-2s and 1099s, for example, but also having to work with resource partners. And this is something that we can talk about. You have to have really robust systems to be able to meet your business and hit the ground running. A lot of the payroll bureau companies are even working to paying out people as the work is incurred, not on predetermined payroll batches, for example. They're wanting to actually fund employees today if they worked. And so there's a lot of agility going on in systems, and it's important to understand that you really can find a system that meets your needs. Lastly, we're going to get into why I believe your business deserves strategic HR day one, employee one. If you know me already, this is something that you know from just knowing me. But if you're new to me, please understand this is something that HR Boost is very committed to. And then we're going to help you understand our STAR solution. And I'm just coining it at the STAR solution because it's too complicated to tell you how I've come about making this possible for the small business and middle market businesses that I'm talking to, but I've been working hard on doing it, and we're calling it a system that is our STAR solution. It may not be the end all be all solution for everybody. Again, I hope I made that clear. We are system agnostic to a certain degree, especially depending on your pace, your budget, and the sophistication of what you're trying to do with your business. There may be a different solution out there for you, and we will tell you that if that is the case. But we're here to unveil for you the STAR solution that we are working with right now through a new strategic alliance partnership to bring you a system that is scalable, timely, actionable, and will give you the reporting that you need in your business to actually be strategic and employ the talent in your business to compete and rival big competition. Are you guys ready? I hope so. I'm ready. Okay, let's go. We're going to dive into step one now. What do I need to know before I consider purchasing an HR system? These are 4 phases of evaluation that I put forth to you because a lot of businesses rush through this framework right here. Sometimes businesses are reacting from a pain. I call that reactive management or triage in some cases, and we deal in that in the small business market here at HR Boost. But I think that it's really important when you're putting money into systems that you're thinking about your business, not just today, but really where you want your business to go 4 or 5 years into the future. And I want you to think big with that also, like really dream your business to the state that you'd like to see it in terms of resources, people, geographic region even. There's some clients that we have that are really growing through acquisition across the national framework, and that can change your system needs in a heartbeat. I really think that virtually every business is seeking a competitive advantage and trying to reduce their expenses. And so clearly that's where systems come into play. But I definitely feel that the selection of an HR system is invariably more complex than at first glance, especially for those of you that haven't worked in HR systems. I think HR professionals, they're ingrained to knowing HR systems or they've had to work with them, but it's really usually the buying decision that resides with maybe a CFO, a COO, even an owner of a business, a CEO, and they're relying sometimes on somebody else's expertise to help them know if this is the right decision for their business. And that's my motivation for this webinar, in fact. I've talked with CFOs, I've talked with CEOs, I've talked with business owners who have literally made buying decisions based on the influence and the recommendation of somebody that was feeding their business strategy from a systems perspective, and that person's background was primarily in sales. Well, sales obviously has a one-track mind unless you can really bring somebody to the table that has maybe that HR mindset to help you understand how that system is going to work for you. And that HR professional also has to have the mindset of understanding the business overall, not just their HR mind, but how does HR interact with finance, marketing, operations, etc., in order to know the best system. So keeping that in mind, I want you to know that we feel you should start with the inception phase. What's your primary goal? What are the needs of your system? The elaboration phase, making a bullet pointed list, please, of what identifies the system for you. What do you want that system to do? And some people don't even know the capabilities of what systems can do for them, but I think dreaming up what you really want for your business, you have the right to list that out in bullet points and demand it from every vendor that you meet with and see if that system can do what you want it to deliver. In some cases, you really do need an expert at the table, and that's where HR Boost comes to play. We like to start with people and take them into the request for proposal phase. We have done this for many of our clients, especially those on a retainer basis, and we've brought many different players to the table. To date, I can tell you that all of my HR consultants that are embedded within businesses have their hands in all the payroll bureau companies that you can imagine within the Chicago market, and they've taken companies through the implementation of those systems far beyond the sale or the close of the sale. And so understanding what you're looking for, being agnostic about that, and just thinking what's best for the business, not what's best, outside for the sale, but what's best for you, that's something we are committed to. And I think that knowing it's important to understand thoroughly what your needs are is really what we'd be looking for from you. So if you don't know that right now, know that you'll be needing to come to the table with that bullet pointed list, and then make sure you have the right partner side by side working with you as you evaluate the best system for your business. Okay, with that being said, I want us to dive into alphabet soup. What is an HRIS system anyway? I bullet pointed it here for you. HRISs, again, are human resource information systems. This is something that gives you access to analyze information and data for which that system houses or collects based on something that you or someone on your team has keyed into that system, and that's where these fields come in. It may have recruiting capabilities. The sophistication of those recruiting capabilities is unique based on the HRIS provider. Some of them might actually have metric data outputs, might be able to integrate with other job boards, for example, and post positions for you and have reciprocity between those systems of the HRIS and the outside market of social media systems. So this is something you might be seeing. Benefits administration. This is interesting. Some systems within the HRIS framework have intranet pages, and that again is somebody in your system, your business, I should say, that has to actually key the intranet page, put up and upload the summary plan documents, summary plan descriptions, the schedule of benefits, for example, the cost structure that's available to your employees. And again, this is just uploading something. So this is just a database again, but it's making it transparent and visible and private maybe to your community of employees. Absence management. This is, sometimes it's a scheduler, sometimes it's just a calendar. This depends on if you have a time and attendance system integrating with your HRIS system. Some HRIS systems do sell their own modules of time and attendance systems, and time and attendance systems are time clock systems. These can get pretty sophisticated. They are add-on system purchases or hardware purchases for your business outside of an HRIS. And so understanding, again, the scope, the geographic region, mobile capability. Do you have guys working out on the ground in crews? How mobile capable does your system have to be? Again, these are all evaluation things based on what's the right system for you, but understand that that absent management can get pretty sophisticated with the right time and attendance plugin. Some companies who are selling their time and attendance plugin under the umbrella of their human resource information system might have a time and attendance system that is not super robust. And that's okay, as long as you're not looking for a sophisticated time and attendance module or system. And I ran into this recently with a client who just signed on a dotted line before we got there for an HRIS system for their payroll and all of the things you see here on the screen. But you'll notice that time and attendance was an add-on. And then when I happened to be in this meeting, a gentleman from operations walked through the door and he said, you know, I really want to get through the GL codes and make sure that the GL codes are mapping now that we purchased this time and attendance system. And I asked the HR person who was at the table, because we work warm in HR, did you ask the vendor how many layers deep does their job costing go for codes on, you know, job codes, payroll codes, department codes, things that are within your system? And she said, I think it might go 4 layers deep. And I thought, well, that's a problem if on the floor we're needing GL and job costing codes to go 30 layers deep. Then next thing you know, your payroll system or your HRIS system is not able to bridge and speak potentially, even if it's not connected directly. You're not even able to export data to make it meaningful to maybe the operations manager who wants to put it into action so that your departments are working together to benefit that business. So these are kind of technical questions. I give that to you as a real example because most people don't know to ask that question unless they've been there, done that. And this is, again, where you need a good partner to work with you in understanding the complexities of maybe your system needs, and from an, you know, an unbiased perspective. Okay, compensation from an HRIS system, you will have maybe a database available to you where you can house your salary structure or how people are paid. It's going to be very basic within an HRIS world. It's not going to be super robust and integrating with budgets. And I'll talk about that on the next slide. Training, it's training record. It's going to house maybe that training took place and tie it to somebody's employee record. Again, data entry, and maybe you can extrapolate reporting based on the data entry that you put in from a single point. The workflow, some of this is prescribed and you may have some customization based on your workflow, but again, this becomes a huge project for somebody in-house. If you don't have the resources in-house, you're going to need a partner potentially like HR Boost who helps you with your workflow. And this is different than the implementation from a software perspective. If I brought in a payroll provider today with a payroll bureau company system, they would say, oh yes, we're very committed to implementation and we'll work it and we'll be there through the entire first 3-month phase. But I can tell you at HR Boost, implementation for us and working with our clients has usually a 36-month scope. 36 months to be able to say, okay, let's build the job descriptions. Let's build your performance management framework. Let's understand how we're going to pay people. Again, all those things happen outside of a system. Self-service is very important when you're talking about empowering people to key their own data for you. You don't want to be handing in forms like I-9s and W-2s and change of data, bank direct deposits, for example, and just basic transactional things where you have somebody else on your system and your team that's keying all that data for you and housing it and filing those papers. It's nice when you can turn on a system and have self-reporting where it's my responsibility as a woman who just got married last weekend, hypothetically, to come in and key that I just got married and give you my name update. So self-service enables that. Reporting is very important. Sometimes systems have very complicated reporting structures. You want to see it, feel it, touch it before you buy ever, and make sure that it's something that is user-friendly and doable. I've been in companies where I've had to take special classes even to understand the reporting. You run into that typically with human resource management systems, bigger systems, but you want to make sure you look at the reporting on the HRIS framework before you buy it. Okay, any questions on HRIS? I don't see any chats coming through, so we're just going to move right ahead. We're going to get in now to what is an HCM system. An HCM system is the human capital management system. And human capital management systems are meant to help you manage the data and optimize your operations. Notice that it's quite different. It can have a little bit more going on than just the bells and whistles of just a database, for example. Hey, Bob, welcome. I see that you just joined us. It's nice to just see you today. Okay, moving forward. When you look at this, I kept all the bullet points that are included in a human resource information system on the prior slide, but put the new things that are part of or in addition to what's available in a human capital management system in green for you. So as you can see here, a human capital management system will take something that is not available in an HRIS system, but that is important to most businesses today, which is onboarding. How do we actually onboard our talent, or how do we get systems to actually digitally walk somebody through all the things that they must turn into HR, and potentially how can we have somebody that comes on as a new hire key all their own data before they start day one. That's what an HCM system can do for you. Performance integration is really important. And I think performance, when it's ideally, it gives you not just a performance management framework where you can house how you're going to conduct performance feedback and relationships in your business, but how can you actually put that into development plans? And so some systems with HCM tie into succession planning, which you'll see a bullet point there in green. That's where you can actually create maybe the learning path or career framework for job family progression within a business, and digitally with technology as well. Position control is something about security and building really robust security frameworks on the back end of systems so that you can have a number of screens that are available to people that work for you at your operational management levels, but you're able to actually customize the security around who sees what. And this is something, again, a project that's part of your implementation. At our experience at HR Boost, it can take upwards of maybe 8 hours with somebody who really knows how to do it, working with somebody who really knows what they want to do. Right? So this is pretty robust framework, but it's really important for businesses that are growing through acquisition, or have spread geographic region, or have operational leaders that they want to empower to see data at their fingertips and not be calling into corporate all the time, or having them always have to go see Sally for the information that they need. So that gets into the position control framework and span of control. Compensation planning is very different. Compensation strategy planning is very different than the bullet point of just compensation above in an HRIS system. Compensation planning is where I could get on the phone with somebody who's in the implementation phase of a human capital management system, and I could say, how do the budgets set up within this software system? If we give the system budgets, for example, for different operational areas within this business, am I able to allocate budgets to Joe, Bob, and Mary, and I'm able to actually integrate it to their compensation merit matrix or their merit table for performance integration, where they know they can get, 3% to cost of living increase, let's say, even though I'm not a fan, I'm more about pay for performance, but let's say they get a 3%, and it's ultimately where they can tie that 3% within a framework of $10,000 that they have to give to their talent this year for merit increase. So it actually enables budget integration to how we actually give them a framework for performance management, the policy, if you will, and then puts it in the hands of the operational leader at their desk to propose and make all their recommendations, digitally send it to whoever approves that, get approval, and then allocate that approval back within the system. That is compensation planning, very different than just putting what somebody can earn within an Excel spreadsheet that's housed in an HRIS, for example. Global analytics are pretty rich. And global analytics is where most businesses want to be, but they don't have the systems to be able to do it. Again, what I said before at the very beginning of this was that most human capital management systems that are out there and within the budget framework available to small to middle market businesses, they're not even selling to businesses with less than 3,000 employees. But I would say a business that's going from 10 million to 25 million and wants to scale and sell in 4 years for 58 million, like my first managed services client, this is a client that needs global analytics and deserves it. So this is why they need HCM. Okay, moving forward. What is a human resource management system? A human resource management system is when you get the full suite. You get the full suite of everything we talked about in HRIS already, with the full suite of everything we talked about in human capital management systems. And now you have a human resource management system. When I talk about that, that's where you can maximize the operations, as it says here, manage your payroll and your productivity. So it's going to bring your labor systems in, it's going to bring your payroll systems in, and it's going to join it up with everything that we just talked about within the human capital management framework and the human resource information systems framework. So there you have all your bullet points green now. There are some systems out there that I've had access to that are human resource management systems, and the global analytics framework was only limited based on the sophistication of that system. My last in-house job, my employer had Sage Abra systems, for example. Sage Abra systems are human resource management systems. They are very robust. It is something that the business invests in and they can house, and they can run their complete HR system in-house. And it also requires some payroll in-house as well versus outsourcing your payroll, for example. So it has some contingency requirements. It depends on the resources that you have in-house. If you can actually support and utilize what a human resource management system can do for your business. But I think it's really important for you to understand the difference. These are our systems that can interpret and integrate data across multiple data points. So for example, they could run reports with the fields that are housed within each of these bullet points. There may be hundreds of different fields within each of these modules or bullet points within that system, and they're able to report and correlate data across modules so that you can get a little bit more intellectual data and reporting to show you more information from a two-point perspective. We're going to talk a little bit about that in a minute, but I think that human resource management systems are very good for businesses that have ERP systems where you already have an enterprise resource planning system, for example, and those are unique to industry in some cases. They can be quite broad and varied, but a true strategic HR department will know how and want to be working with the financial team to be able to integrate their HR data, their human capital data, with the financial data, with what's happening out in the field and operations, so that we can have a global perspective of true global analytics. And this is why human resource management systems are built to bridge. Sometimes you have to hire custom programmers to build bridges on the back end of systems if the providers don't already have those bridges built. But typically those systems that are out there that are human resource management systems, you can ask them on the front end, what systems do you bridge to for no charge, right? If they give you a charge, that means there's some custom development going into it. And your goal when you're making these purchases is to try and get bridges built and integrating for your systems without a charge. I have seen some companies, and I'm not joking, spend $200,000 on the integration of maybe their human resource management system to their ERP system through the resources of a consulting partner, which is something maybe they didn't see at the beginning of the outset when we're talking about that evaluation stage of what you need. And I think these are unforeseen costs that can be hidden, that can traumatize you actually over a span of years as you make that system, quote unquote, work for you. I would argue that I'd love for small, mid-sized businesses to have a system that can, quote unquote, work for them. Let's get into the questions of logic. So it's very easy to understand logical paths. I think many of us have, seen maybe this model before, but I put it in front of you so that you know that we always have to start with that global 30,000 foot perspective, which is what is our purpose or mission of our program, effort, or initiative. So getting back to what you're trying to do and why. Excuse me while I take a drink. But it's often suggested, that improved decisions about human capital and greater credibility for the HR profession come from just the HR professional. But I would say that's not necessarily true. A true strategic HR professional is going to be looking outward to other areas of the business, not just the inputs that come into my department, for example, and what barriers I have to getting information, but going out and hearing the pain of the people and getting what activities and programs need to be happening, what's happening out on the ground, what are the systems and things that we can drive efficiency through, and then understanding what's going to come out of those initiatives in terms of ROI or effectiveness. But we cannot just do that again from the HR perspective. It's really where the decision sciences like finance and marketing that have proven bodies of knowledge, and has a body of knowledge. I, for example, have credentials based on having mastered the body of knowledge of HR. But I would argue that most businesses that you walk into today, they know the body of knowledge and respect the body of knowledge of finance and marketing, for example, but they may not necessarily understand that there's a body of knowledge that they already understand and can hit the ground running with, like finance, HR. And so it's our job in HR, if you have that body of knowledge, to be working outwardly, externally, to bridge to finance and marketing professionals within the business or C-suite executives, so that you can actually help them understand how you can be of value, how you can actually work with them for a win-win, so we can have greater outcomes together using the data that we both collect. This is very important, and this is why it's important to come back to this just logic model and kind of understand, what are the situational inputs and resources that I have? What are the activities and outputs that I'm looking to deliver upon? What are the effects and results that I'm actually looking to drive forward with? Then you can get a context and know that it's not just internal, but they have to be looking external. And it's those external things that can really squeeze a business, whether it be regulatory, competitive frameworks, what's happening in your backyard, what's available in your backyard, whether you're competing locally, nationally, or globally. All these different things can change the context and the conditions of the system that you need for your business. And I would argue that if you don't have all of this out the gate, then we shouldn't be looking at a system just yet, right? We want to have all this information so we know, again, what is it that we really need, and what is it that we're going to put into action, and our budget, what can we afford, and at what pace are we growing this business? At what pace are we scaling this business? Is it something we can do methodically along the way and invest in when we have those resources as we earn revenue? Or is it something that, no, I've got the funding and the resources right now, I'm going to hit the ground running and I want to scale? Well, then you might be able to buy something that's a little bit more robust. So understanding this is important. But again, it's up to the people in HR to really drive relationships with the stakeholders in other areas of the business to help people understand what those human capital metrics are. Because I would say that even from when I was in grad school and the last few years of what's available, not only from a human capital metric standpoint, but just what happened in 2019 alone with people analytics and systems and technology advancements, it's really up to the professionals in each of those respective areas to just shed light on what's the opportunity. And I've known the opportunity for quite some time, but I've been so frustrated by the fact that the systems that the big players haven't been available to the small market businesses that are out there. And so I'm excited to tell you I have a solution. Okay, moving forward, let's talk about this. CFOs, again, are really valuable members to a team. The financial members of any business really let us know if we're making money or not, right? Help us understand what's going on. And we can't do a whole lot within business without money, as we all know. But what's sad is that there was a survey. This is when you ask a CFO, what do they say is the most useful way to measure HR? And this is their voice. They're actually saying, you know, that the employee satisfaction surveys is something that they feel is really important. 23% of CFOs said that. And I would argue that employee satisfaction surveys are one type of survey, but really culture surveys should have a framework where they're measuring 5 areas of satisfaction, not just employee satisfaction, but employee engagement, personal growth and development, values, personal values and how they tie to the organizational values, and last but not least, collaboration. So I would say you don't even have a valuable engagement survey if it's not measuring those 5 areas. And that's something to say right there, where the HR framework, the strategic HR framework, can really partner with CFOs so that we actually know that we're working together. External ranking by top employers, 9% of the CFOs that answered this survey said that that was important. From an HR perspective, I would argue that every single business, if you're trying to attract talent, skilled talent, especially within the framework of the marketplace right now where we're in a tight market, it helps. It definitely does more than just an indirect help. It's a direct help to the bottom line, I would argue. If you are an employer of choice, if you've been recognized by a third party of choice, I think that it adds to your credibility, and credibility is cash, and cash is in your pocket. So I would say I'd like to see that metric higher. Times that key roles remain open, that's an old metric. They're saying, yeah, it's important that we fill positions fast, but anybody that's HR knows that every position in every company out there has an open vacancy. Most of you drive down the street and see help wanted signs right now, and it's really competitive against low wage earning jobs. If you just go through the retail and hospitality sectors, you'll see help wanted signs on every door right now. I call that the talent emergency, something I wrote about 3 years ago. So I would say the time that key roles remain open is a past descriptive data metric. It's really about, okay, no, how long is it going to take us to actually make talent here? We know that if we can't find skilled talent, we're going to have to hire unskilled talent. And then we know we're going to have to actually create, invest, and develop that talent. How long does it take for us to actually develop that talent? And how do we increase and improve that metric? It's our make-buy ratio. And I would argue that's a metric that every business, whether you're big, small, or large, needs to be measuring and have their finger on in terms of the pulse of it. Benefits costs, again, this is a CFO perspective. They're saying 16% of CFOs really feel that HR should be measuring benefits cost, and I definitely agree we should be measuring benefits costs. But I would say we also need to be measuring benefits choice, and we need to be actually looking at how people utilize our plans, and not just offering benefits because employees and everybody says that you have to offer benefits to attract talent. I think it's something where you should really ask the employees, what kind of benefits do you want? And finding out the utilization of that and really customizing the choices at the cost that we can afford, so that you're not just putting benefits out there to like check the box, but make them value added really in terms of the perception to the employee group that you're speaking to. Compensation costs relative to industry. This is called benchmarking or marketplace benchmarking. And this is really important. It's moving fast in a lot of different areas. And in some places, it's exceeding external marketplace. A lot of companies are having a hard time keeping up with it. And some companies are scaling through part-timers, offering part-timers benefits, all kinds of things are happening. It's really important for you to take an internal look, however, on your mission critical positions, knowing which positions are key to you and understanding which positions that are key have an internal valuation on the value of the job. You can actually add maybe even a 10% or 20% unique identifier on the salary benchmark to help add value of showing really what that position's worth to this business. And I think that's something that is a strategic conversation that must be happening in every business that's out there. So the accountability really is in HR. Hopefully through me just sharing my 10-second spiel on it helps you understand how important it is to have an HR partner working with you and your finance partner in understanding how to drive strategic HR integration day one. This is an analytics path to business value. This is going to just be a lens for you to help you understand data. And when we're collecting data in HR, yeah, a lot of companies, whether you have 5 employees or 500, you're collecting data. You're housing it, you have a responsibility to keep it protected. Personal health information, in fact, if you're over 15 employees, is regulated by HIPAA. And every company has some responsibility to work ethically with the data that they collect, especially within the cybersecurity framework today. So let's just talk about the fact, yes, and we're going to own the fact, yes, every business is collecting data. Now, what they do with that data is different. A lot of companies that are in the small to middle market arenas, they're collecting descriptive data. And if they were using systems, for example, they might be able to extrapolate reporting that shows them what data it is that they have. So it's a backwards look. It's a historical look backwards. What may happen is predictive data. Predictive data is where you actually want to understand trending data. Again, something that happens in the past, where we're able to look at what has happened in a particular department with respect to turnover, which is a backward-looking metric. How many people left, right? So if we just did a turnover report, and we said how many people left in the last 12 months, that's descriptive data. But if we say how many people left in the last 12 months, and what does that trend for the reasons in which they left, a different metric field data from surveys or exit interviews or whatever it might be that we pivot from. So 2 data points. Then we can say the people are leaving the business, but based on the reasons as to why these people are leaving, 20% of this is regrettable, but 80% of it is really not regrettable. And of the stuff that was regrettable, what is the trend that those issues are going to impact others that leave us in the next 12 months? That is where your data and the person who's interpreting the data of those 2 data points becomes prescriptive. It's where it can be a recommendation that's given that will actually prevent something or put it into action for your business and affect the outcome. What will happen? So that's where you want your team and your systems to be working together in order to make sure that the data that you're collecting is doing something for your business. And understanding where you're at today is very important. Most businesses that we walk into are working within descriptive data. A lot of businesses that I've walked into, whether they be startups or all the way to 500 employees, again, our target framework, middle market, a lot of these businesses have been collecting descriptive data for decades. And even the newer companies that are coming up, they're reactive to their growth, they're forced to just collect data. But how can we put that data into action? How can we actually analyze that data? And then what can we do to make that data work for us and drive our business outcomes? That is the question I want everybody to be thinking about in terms of their system choice and their partner choice. So strategic HR, what are some of the data-driven decisions that HR can drive for you when they're working with you? And these, I would argue, are decisions that deserve to be happening, again, with a business that's a startup, all the way to a business that's been growing and scaling and has hundreds or thousands of employees. These are the outcomes that you want to be measuring. Are you deploying your labor efficiently? Are you diagnosing and preventing your turnover? Again, when and why? Sometimes you can have a lot of turnover, but it could be managed turnover. You may be doing a shift in your business. You got to understand what ratio of that turnover is leaving, and also the productivity of the people that you have on your team in the bench strength. How productive are the people that we have that are here working with us, and how can we maximize their opportunity to continue to grow in our framework? A different metric that you could be looking at, ensuring that quality and performance. Identifying areas needing employee engagement. This is by comparing location to location. This is really important because if you don't have culture by design, you have culture by default, which is where whatever operational leader you have in the field at respective locations that you have, the strongest personality wins. And so you could have grown through acquisition and have a company, you know, in Arizona and another one in Florida. But if you're not measuring the culture in each of those respective departments, be it wherever they are, and then comparing it back, we're not able to actually understand what's happening within our framework of different locations by different leaders that we put in place to empower and optimize our culture invitation. So identifying those areas is really important, knowing if you have systems, tools, or resources to measure that. I would say that the investment that you're making in people and systems, you want to realize those results. And so this is just something I give to you to help you understand. These are some of the things that you should expect to want to measure out of your HR department. And if you don't have that, sit down with your HR partner and ask them what they're doing to help you analyze these data-driven results that you hope to seek out of either the use of their system or their talent. And hopefully you have an HR partner that can really answer these questions for you and take you on this journey. Because again, strategic HR, day one, employee one is what you deserve. And I think that some of this is done with systems and the optimization of investment in systems, but some of this is going to be employed again with the recommendation of experts and partners that take those two data points and make recommendations based on what's being seen, which is expertise. So keep that in mind. But this is where I would argue too, human capital management systems matter. If you have just an HRIS system that's not working for you strategically to drive strategic data and data points and interacting with your ERP systems or systems other than just that HRIS house, or you don't have an HR partner that can interpret that data and make recommendations, well, then that's where you really need to be moving towards a human capital management system. If in fact your system is, you know, not working for you, and if in fact your business is sophisticated and ready to grow and scale to the point that you're going to use and fully utilize all the bells and whistles of a human capital management system. We're here to help you at HR Boost. I hope that that's something that I put out there for you. I really do think that the difference is in the people. And, you know, we work warmly with your staff, including HR professionals. This is something where we have a unique lens at HR Boost because we're in so many different companies across industry and size, and we've worked with so many different systems and platforms and players in the marketplace. We really do believe in helping people utilize the system that they've already invested in. We did a project last year for a client. They clearly are global. They had 5 people already working in HR within their world, their national best place to work. And we were very thrilled to be able to partner with them in taking an old school system, which is performance management geared, but then create outside of the system the career lattice framework, and then help and train their management team on how to implement and strategize and put into action the conversation about how do you grow here, and here's how you can grow here, and here's how I'm going to help you. Those are all things that help them qualitatively outside of systems again, but we're here to help you. And I think that we at HR Boost are really skilled at creating change leaders, not change managers. Change manager to me is something that just indicates somebody that's dealing with reactively people's reactions to change. And I would like to say that each of us can be empowered with the right knowledge and the right people at the table to help people feel comfortable with the why behind the change, get buy-in across the process as to why this change is necessary and where it's going to take us, and then invite people on the journey to help make it happen. Happen is very important. Happen faster, very important, and get us to the place of utilization and realizing the results of that investment. So just know we're boosters on standby. I'm really excited to announce to you where I am today at HR Boost. At HR Boost, like I said, I've been working in this business, in my own business, and in the consulting world of shared services. And boy, most things that are available to the middle market, small, mid-sized businesses, are the payroll bureau companies who are striving to evolve their systems. And some of them have some pretty good bells and whistles. We've been playing in some of those systems. Some of them do have good implementation on the front end, but again, they may not be human capital management systems. They may very well be HRIS systems. And so I've been still very passionate in searching for a human capital management system that would allow me to get to the middle market and provide it to our smaller clients. A lot of the clients that have been wanting this from me have been open to us bringing that to the table. And when I went out to the largest shared services summit in our country, quite honestly, and I went to some of the bigger players and learned that they don't provide their systems to businesses with less than 3,000 employees, I was still challenged. And I got excited a couple years ago with some of the bigger players that are out there, Ultimate Software and Ceridian, for example. They started coming to play in the middle market, going down to businesses with as low as, 65 employees. That's nice. And then when we'd bring them in, I'd start bringing in these systems, which I'm excited about. They're human capital management systems, of course. It's not apples to apples, you guys. It's like selling, moving from an apple to an orange, something with juice, right? And so when I think about that, I was excited. We'd bring it to our companies and our clients. And what happened was the clients couldn't afford it. Yeah, the system's there. Yeah, it has all the bells and whistles. Yeah, it's available to them if they had 65 employees, for example. But the provider that I brought to the table would have very large implementation fees. And those implementation fees would be something that would right away turn off the client. It's where the client couldn't afford $20,000, $30,000 in implementation costs. No way. I mean, who could? And so that's where the small to mid-sized business was at a disadvantage. And I've been really frustrated by this and trying really hard to figure out how I could do this. And I've expressed it to many people that I work with in my network. And I've had the pleasure of being connected now to somebody who believes in it as much as I do. At Collaboration Software Partners, these guys believe in the middle market and small businesses as much as I do, and want to bring the resources and tools of human capital management frameworks to the small to middle market businesses as much as I do. And when I got talking with them, I was pretty excited about the opportunity to be able to bring the human capital management framework to the small to mid-sized businesses that we work with. And I realized that if I was partnering with those businesses, I could put some of my own passion and risk tolerance in the game to say I'm willing to invest in those small to mid-sized businesses if they're willing to invest in us. And as a result of that, I'm able to say that we've partnered with Collaboration Software Partners. They're an authorized Kronos business partner, and Netfully, who's 29 years strong, been doing the technical implementations of building the workflow process and taking your policy, building the rules and the ins and outs of those systems from a technical perspective. And here at HR Boost, we're pretty well and seasoned and skilled at being able to be in your business as the HR voice, making sure that all of that happens and then putting into reality after the sale is long and gone and you're needing to implement it and create buy-in among your workforce. So that's where HR Boost comes in. This is something where we are committed to partnering with you all the way from kickoff, the RFP, discovery, what are we trying to do, building it, what does it need to do, creating that custom framework of the system, the bells and whistles, and then all the way to the go live through support. And again, support at HR Boost for some of our clients, no joke, it has been moving from an HRIS system, growing through acquisition across state lines, buy a couple of businesses, integrate them, and then grow to something that we think is an HCM system, realize it's not that, go through all that implementation of that system, back to another system, HR Boost still being there through the whole ride, and then coming back to a system that finally is a human capital management system that will work for that business. That's 3 system changes in less than 4 years with HR Boost as a partner. That gives you an example of what we do here at HR Boost. We are committed to making sure that you are getting what you need out of your system. Furthermore, making sure that you're getting the system that's right for you based on the sophistication and readiness of your business. There's no point in buying the bells and whistles if you're not going to turn the bells and whistles on. Fair? If you're ready for the bells and whistles, well, then we want to help you turn them on. Most systems out there look kind of like this, right? We want to work the way you want to work. We give you the insights you need. It's all in one in a modern cloud. A lot of systems that are out there that are selling will tell you this. It's hard to tell the difference between, you know, am I talking truth? Are they talking truth? Are we all selling the same system? And I will tell you that most companies are selling the same system, but they're selling you if you're in the small to middle market, they're selling you a human resource information system, not a human capital management system and not a human resource management system. Again, there are a few players in the middle market right now that I could tell you are building and selling a human capital management system for you. So knowing that I have this partnership with Collaboration Software Partners and we're committed to bringing you a human capital management software system is key. Yeah, it brings you human resource management. So do the other guys. Yeah, it's going to bring you workforce management. So do the other guys. Yes, it's going to bring you payroll management. So do the other guys. Everything benefits. Now this is where it gets dicey. Some companies out there, they'll have the benefits portals. They'll be telling you that they bridge to the carriers, but I'll tell you that Collaboration Software Partners now is working with a platform that bridges with over 600 carriers in the network. And when I talk to different people about the fact of what we're doing here at HR Boost and that we're committed to this, one of the first houses that called me was a brokerage firm. And they said, Nicole, what are you doing over at HR Boost? And I said, here, I'll send you the list. Is it 360? They said, yeah. I said, yeah, some of it is 360. Send them the list. They're going to be our first beta client that we're taking through demo to see if it's something good for them, let alone their clients. And that's what we're committed to at HR Boost. Not only does it have carrier connectivity, but it's got the 401k integration solutions to help you be reporting to your respective state and local authorities on time, every time. Some of you have small businesses where it's like your office manager that's wire transferring 401k deferrals. And did you know that you're regulated to have to transfer that within a very tight time frame? And if your office manager is responsible for accounts receivable and accounts payable and that, what if they end up not transferring it for over 30 days? Guess who's on the cuff? You. This is important stuff. So it's transactional, but there's regulatory frameworks for it. And it's important for you to know that your system actually expedites those things for you so that you can keep building your business and not having to think about all the things that you can, you know, bootstrap you. COBRA administration. Our Everything Benefits solution does COBRA administration. It makes sure that we're providing access to in-house compliance experts, getting rid of your manual and paper-based processes and seamlessly complying with all the regulatory framework. And this is really important because when you're talking about COBRA, you're talking about the people that are no longer with your business, let alone the people that are with your business. So how much administration do you want going to the people that are no longer with your business? You need that automated as best as you can do it, for sure. And then that leads us to benefits reconciliation. A lot of small businesses have somebody that's getting the invoice, if you will, from Blue Cross Blue Shield or Delta Dental or whatever it might be. And they're line iteming who's on this bill. And they're going over to their system of who's enrolled in this, right? Descriptive data. These are the people who opted in. These are the people who didn't opt in. These are the people who fell off this month. They're highlighting and they're doing this all manually. Oh my gosh. We actually can say with our STAR solution that Everything Benefits will automate all of that and run a report and show you discrepancies so that we can actually catch up to errors, which there are errors, you guys, and errors in benefits comes back to money out your door that potentially you didn't have to pay if these things don't happen timely, or money that you could have kept and allocated to some other resource. So automating this and making it work, not in months, but in like weeks through implementation, that's what I'm talking about. That's the expectation I'm looking for. Wanting to reduce your non-compliance, your liabilities, and freeing up your time and resources so that maybe the person who's in-house in finance can actually do something like forecast your financial model rather than show you what happened. That's pretty rich, right? Optimizing your talent that's on your bench right now and making it work for you. So we're looking and talking about an integrated system at HR Boost. This is what we want for our clients. And again, not every client is going to go this way, and we're okay with that. We still work with clients that work with payroll bureau companies. We're system agnostic. Again, we work with startups that might do everything in Excel. They might have bought a one-off just app to get them through one pain point right now. So whatever's right for that system based on their maturity and the pace and budget that they have. But I wanted everybody on this call to know the difference between an HRIS system and a human capital management system, and know that there is a way that you can now access, whether you have 5 employees, 10 employees, 50 employees, 250 employees, or 500 employees, anything less than 3,000 employees, to be quite honest, actually. If you have anything less than that, we at HR Boost are partnered and be able to give you a human capital management system if that's really what you want. As far as the implementation fees, I'm taking the personal risk to make sure that we spread those implementation fees so that you don't pay $20,000 to $30,000 on the front end. Because why? Because we believe in strategic HR, day one, employee one. We want you to have a powerful cloud-based system. We want you to be able to bridge to your GL systems and your ERP systems and do predictive analytics out of your business and your data. We want you to actually be competing for talent and putting all those systems to work for you so that you can spread your business and grow and scale across state lines, having multiple state FEIN codes and tax situations that aren't, hamstrung by a system that doesn't grow with your business. Our STAR solution is business driven. It starts with customized solutions, and you only pay for what you use. You turn on the parachute that opens for you right now. Again, a lot of HR is built outside of that system, and that's where it's important for you to know that you have a system where you can turn on only what you need when you need it. You don't want to buy the whole hog if you're not going to eat the whole hog, right? So understanding that is really important, and that way you can get a system that grows with you and grows with you at the pace that you need. My goal is to get you to something like this: an executive overview, a human capital investment overview, a custom analytics dashboard. Custom analytics, because every business that I go into has metrics that mean something to them that aren't universal, especially if you're doing proprietary growth strategies. You're going to have something that's a unique metric, and you want to be able to have a dashboard that you can build and show up in those meetings and say, hey, here's our human capital investment strategy. Here's our metrics this month, our quarter, our year. Here's how we're improving. And now small, medium-sized businesses can get there. I'm excited. I hope you are too. My call to action for all of you, if you're interested about our STAR solution, is our next demo is going to be March 16th at 1:30 p.m. You can go to this link right here on the screen and you can register, and our partners will be available on that call to answer any questions, show you what I'm talking about, show you the system at hand, and then you can move forward. If you're looking for just a consultation with HR Boost, just to talk and find out what your needs are, talk about where you're at right now, you can use this link to book to a meeting at any booster on my team today. We're meeting with clients all over Chicagoland, to be quite honest with you. And that's just hrboost.com/consultation, an open booking site for anybody on my team. Just let them know you're looking to talk HCM or systems, and we'll come out and meet with you face to face and just hit the ground running. Let's see what we can do to give you the boost that you seek at HR Boost, Strategic HR, Day One, Employee One. And we hope to be the HR Boost you seek. Thank you so much, you guys. Make it a great day and enjoy the afternoon. Bye-bye.